Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. A stacked video for you today. We're going to be talking about the latest news out from Soluna Holdings, Bit Digital, Cipher Mining, and of course IREN, not to mention our reaction to the JP Morgan downgrade and what the X community is saying. We've got a lot to talk about. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button guys, big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below what you thought about this JP Morgan downgrade for IREN and if you're holding any of the other miners mentioned in today's video. With that being said, let's get into today's podcast. All right, guys, away we go. Tuesday afternoon. Looking forward to today's video. We've got some analyst price targets to talk about. Those are always fun. We've got an update on Cipher, a video out from IREN, and some exciting news from Soluna Holdings and Bit Digital. So we'll jump right into it. First things first, Bitcoin price hovering just shy of 113,000. Again, compared to a few days ago, still looking fairly optimistic for what many are calling October.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the we've got a 5-day position here, and it's up, 3.58%. So I don't think there's many two people overly concerned. Interesting enough, Tether bought 8,000 Bitcoin today, so they've spent $1 billion on Bitcoin. And remember, 450 Bitcoin gets produced every day. So Tether have just gone out there and bought nearly probably 18 days production in one go. And we know that from a longevity, some of these wallets, 70% of wallets where Bitcoin hasn't changed the last couple of years, it's this small amount, this remaining amount that's getting traded or getting sold. And once that tightens, then, economics determine that the Bitcoin price will start to increase as more and more of these larger establishments, these larger companies start buying more and more Bitcoin.
You're certainly right about Tether. I remember in Las Vegas, they did a presentation. You and I sat in the audience. Their balance sheet and their corporate treasury position is absolutely incredible. They have tons of gold, thousands of Bitcoin, thousands of Ethereum. For a private company, quite formidable. Now, the Bitcoin miners themselves, they've been really all over the map, trading independently of Bitcoin for the last few months as we see this HPC AI re-rate really occur in front of our eyes. Yesterday, we highlighted a few of the miners that maybe weren't making as many headlines as some of the more popular ones like the IRENs, the Ciphers, the Bitfarms. We highlighted DMG. We talked about Hive. We talked about some of these smaller up-and-comer miners. And as you can see again today, kind of bucking the trend with DMG on top of the pile.
Yeah, DMG is having a great week, and the company are also acknowledging the fact that the share price is doing really well with good volumes. If you look at today's volume there, $1.4 million traded. Well, that might not sound a lot when you compare it to the likes of Bitfarms or Bit Digital, where there's over 30 million traded in the first couple of hours. But if you think about the average volume for DMG, it's only 393,000, maybe just under 400,000 there. So they're already 3 times their average volume. And I think a lot of investors are looking at DMG as a potential company that might break out of that share price position it's been in for a significant while there. And if you look today, up 6.8%, it was up quite nicely, probably the biggest rise yesterday as well. So having a really good start to the week. We covered them yesterday on the podcast, and we explained what they're trying to do. And hopefully you manage to watch that podcast to get a bit more insight, which helps with your due diligence when you decide to buy some of these miners. So, of course, having a strong day there, up 3% already. And the reason for that increase there today is we've seen an announcement from CoreWeave. Now, remember, CoreWeave have already had an approval from the board of Core Scientific to acquire the company. And that's now going through to a vote at the end of the month for shareholders. But CoreWeave today have announced a $14 billion agreement with Meta to supply compute power. The latest multi-billion-dollar deal as business ramp up infrastructure to meet the demand for AI applications. And on this news there, we can see the CoreWeave share price is already up nearly 14% today. So Core Scientific having a bit of a benefit from that, because we are talking about the shares that, if the deal goes through, the shares that the Core Scientific shares will receive is 0.1 1235 CoreWeave shares for every Core Scientific share they hold. Now, we've also showing our normal chart here to look at that contract value. Now, remember, it was 9 billion back on the 7th of July, indicating a price of $20.40. Today, the actual value of that contract is $7.6 billion. So it's getting closer and closer to 9 billion. Remember, we saw it in the fives not too long ago, literally 45% lower than the original price there. That's because the SP for CoreWeave today is heading towards $140. Now, that gives an indicative price as at today's CoreWeave share price of $17.22. Now, Core Scientific share price has been over $18. It's currently at $17.86. So the share price is showing a little bit of a premium to the indicative price of that deal there. Now, this is getting closer and closer. This is going to be interesting for shareholders now who have about just over 4 weeks to vote on this deal. That announcement there, remember we said a few months ago, we've highlighted from a Core Scientific perspective, but there will be shareholders out there that think, actually, I'm going to get some of this bigger company, CoreWeave, who are going to be doing far more bigger deals in the future. CoreWeave are going to be one of those hyperscalers. Core Scientific had a big deal of 590 megawatts, but CoreWeave don't deal in 590 megawatts. They'll be dealing in gigawatts across the globe in terms of where they're trying to grow these HPC AI services. And they're not just dealing in North America. They're also planning to spend about $10 billion in the United Kingdom as well to grow services over there. So some Core Scientific shareholders may feel that there is a benefit of this acquisition in terms of they're now part of a bigger company. But at the end of the day, I suppose they could sell their Core Scientific shares today at 17.86 and go and buy some CoreWeave shares today and probably have a better deal of doing that than they will have maybe at the time of the announcement of the vote. So we'll keep you updated over the next 4 weeks now on that share price, on that value of that deal, so that you've all got an understanding, but you've only got 4 weeks to vote. We know that some of the biggest shareholders have already made their point known, and they voted no. We covered that on yesterday's podcast. So if you missed that, tune into yesterday's podcast and have a listen to that, what we said yesterday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch that one unfold, and nice to see some life back in both CoreWeave and Core Scientific. That's a debate we've been having as well. Do we want to hold shares in the larger potential hyperscaler? Do we want to take our profits out of Core? Let us know in the comment section what your strategy is. Now, another one of the smaller miners we've covered extensively on the channel, Soluna Holdings. This one, a ton of news in terms of the news flow this year. We've talked about that big partnership with Galaxy, hosting some of their machines as they prepare the Helios site for HPC AI. Today, they came out with another nice announcement, 20 additional megawatts, about 1 exahash worth of hosting, this time with our good friends at Canaan.
Yes, and we've covered Canaan on the podcast, and we've covered Saluna, like you say, many times. I don't think there's a mining company this year that's put out as many updates as Saluna. They do try to get at least 2 out every week, and we've been covering 2 every week because we tend to cover all their news stories there. There's nobody else on the social media platforms that covers Saluna, so we're giving them flying the flag for them on our platform. And actually, this is a great update today. So again, another hosting deal. This hosting deal is going to take place at their Dorothy site, which is currently being finalized. We have energization there already, but that's a 48 megawatt facility there for hosted Bitcoin mining machines. And here's 20 megawatts of that going to Canaan there. Now, this agreement is to deploy 20 megawatts of the Avalon A15 XP Bitcoin miners. Now, remember, Canaan, in the same way as Bitdeer, are a company that produces their own machines, but they're also interested in growing their own self-mining hash rate. And by choosing a really good hosted mining company where the energy prices are really, really low compared to a lot of peer miners. This may be a benefit for the likes of Canaan, where you don't have to go out and buy all your facilities and pay for staff to run those. You'll pay a hosting fee to Soluna, and all that cost then is just transitioned into your monthly fee on top of your energy cost. And then with the Bitcoin price, you'll know exactly what your margins are. So I think this is a really good deal for Canaan there, as they want to grow their business, and they've got an option to sell machines, or they can put them into self-mining and actually grow their Bitcoin hodl. And we know that's been growing significantly over the past 6-7 months.
It certainly has, and I'm surprised to see Soluna trading down in the double digits today on the backs of this news. Quite a bullish announcement, but as you say, the share price has run up quite a bit over the last few weeks. A lot of volatility within the Soluna name, but again, if you're not familiar with the story, maybe worth taking a closer look if you believe all of these megawatts are eventually going to be gobbled up by hyperscalers. Now, the next announcement, nice to see some news out from Bit Digital. We had the pleasure of seeing Sam and team, his nice little advertising initiative in New York there. It appears they're following through on their commitment or promise to buy more Ethereum, going out raising 135 million via convertible note.
Yeah, this is again, it's a big convertible note for a company of Bit Digital size there. 135 million principal amount at 4%, and it's due 2030. Now, the company have granted the underwriters an offering of 30-day option to purchase an additional 15 million of principal notes on the same terms and conditions. So this potentially is 150 $1 million. Now they're going to use that predominantly to purchase more Ethereum, to grow that treasury position in Ethereum. Remember, they've already got over 122,000 Ethereum, and look at the price of Ethereum today. That's heading towards at least $500 million. Here's an opportunity to buy potentially, getting close to well over 100, maybe heading towards 150 million of Ethereum, because they believe, like a lot of other Ethereum treasury management companies, that the Ethereum share price is going to do really well in the foreseeable future, because it has more fundamental attributes and usage. If you think about the utility and smart contracts that are available using Ethereum, this bodes really well. Sam Sabar spoke very eloquently at the recent H.C. Wainwright conference in New York, and if you missed that, there are opportunities to maybe see some of those on the website or on YouTube. It's worth a listen to there. He's not the only person that said this about Ethereum. There's a number of high-profile speakers out there that believe it's going to do really well, and a number of high-profile speakers who believe Ethereum can actually topple Bitcoin at some time in the future. Time will tell on that one. And over to you, Bryce, to talk more about the NAV calculation currently for Bit Digital.
This is an interesting one. I've been posting about this for the last few weeks. We talked yesterday about companies, potentially Mara, DMG. There's a lot of components, a lot of moving pieces. Bit Digital is a good example of a company that's really simplified their operations. So they spun out White Fiber. They've got a 71.5% stake in that company. The entire rest of the business is either Ethereum or Ethereum staking. So to me, for a company that has two line items here, both of which are publicly traded commodities, you can get a real-time price. The fact that they're trading at a 33% discount, you can see losing about 8% more today on this convert news. This really seems like an opportunity if you believe in White Fiber, which is HPC AI, of course we do, and if you believe in Ethereum, which we just talked about some of the benefits there. So this one, again, it doesn't get much simpler in my mind, but let us know in the comments section if maybe we're missing something on the NAV calculation. Now, in terms of Cipher, they've been busy raising money as well. They just came out with their hyperscaler announcement. Fluid Stack Google, same type of partnership as what we saw with TeraWulf. They've gone out, they've raised a convertible note. You astutely said, Anthony, yes, these contracts look great from the top line, billions of dollars of revenue, but these companies have to deliver the infrastructure. That's not cheap to do. We've heard anywhere 8, 10, $13 million a megawatt. Cipher going out initially with 800 million, upsizing now to 1.1. I'll let you fill in the details.
Yeah, you're quite right on that capital requirement. We've even seen today, that TeraWulf looking to raise 3 billion to fulfill their requirements, again with the likes of Google, FluidStack, and Core 42, who are their other partner. But this deal today is about Cipher Mining, 1.1 billion convertible senior note due in 2031. Now, this was originally upsized from 800 million, and actually, there is an opportunity for this to be increased. There is an option to increase this by 200 million, so that will take it to 1.3 billion in terms of a revenue. And we understand that the actual bond was 7 times oversubscribed. So it looks likely. We've seen a lot of these where there is an option to increase, and the majority of them all do increase there. Now, the conversion conditions before July the 1st, 2031, at any time after can be settled in cash, shares, or a combination at Cipher's election. Now, the initial rate is 62.3733 shares for every $1,000. That's around about $16.03 a share. Or if you look at the premium from the closing price when this was announced, it's a 37.5% premium over that closing price of $11.66.
Now, to add a little bit more color there, we've talked a lot about these capped call transactions. So essentially what's happened here, Cipher's gone out, they've issued these shares, the ratio you just talked about, at a conversion price of 16.03. Now, if no capped call was in place, people may start to convert shares, which would dilute existing shareholders. Similar to what we've seen with a lot of the miners, Cipher has chosen to invest some of this money into capped call transactions. So essentially, purchasing call options to offset the risk of dilution. Now, they did a nice little breakdown table here, and I wanted to walk through this because this was a great little, I guess, case study of how capped calls work. So the real goal with this, I just mentioned, is to avoid diluting existing Cipher shareholders. The details on how it works, as I also alluded to, is essentially buy the options to offset the issuance of new shares. So the cap price they've chosen is $23.32. You'll note this is a 100% increase from where the stock was trading when the deal was made. Essentially, this means there's no protection above $23.32, but up until this point, the effects of dilution or these converted shares won't be felt by existing shareholders. This gives us a nice indication in terms of where Tyler Page and the rest of the team feels fair market for Cipher could be at the current time. The market impact, of course, is setting up this kind of trade. Now, we've seen a lot of volatility when companies go into one of these capped call transactions, as there's a lot of options or derivatives being traded. So the nice thing here, again, up until that $23.32 price point, you are protected from dilution. Above that, though, if Cipher share price really rallies, you would see some potential dilution impact. So that's a nice case study on how the capped call works. I'll flip it back to you for the final piece on Cipher, talking about a nice little price target increase.
Yeah, so again, yesterday, Rosenblatt put out their price target for the company. Now, bear in mind their previous target was $9. We've seen the share price actually go as high as nearly $18. That was literally just after the announcement of the deal in pre-market. But as we saw that day, the share price dropped back all the way back down to just over $11. Now, the current target is $14. And if you look at today's share price now live, that's probably nearly a couple of dollars from where it is at the moment, just hovering over $12.20 as we speak. Now, we believe that this is one deal of many deals in the pipeline for Cipher. Remember, we've talked about mining companies, and we've talked about those companies that can deliver high-performance compute facilities. And if you ask other miners in the space or other experts in the space who they believe, one name that keeps cropping up is Cipher Mining in terms of growing those really, really strong data centers. They've got a background in this, and the expectation is when they complete their data center at Barber Lake, this is going to be a standard that everyone else will be aspiring to achieve. Now, we expect with the amount of power they've got available, there'll be more and more deals coming along here. And so, I've seen other price targets there. Even the likes of Mike Alfred has determined that maybe there's a $30 price target on this company. So, time will tell, but I believe at the moment at $12.28 as it is live, there's probably more upside to come.
Yeah, good point there. We actually have a tweet from Mike Alfred supporting that. Also, the 1.3 billion potential upsized. Now, it has been deleted since, but another key note here, this offering was 7 times oversubscribed. So a lot of interest here. And coincidentally enough, Tyler said they have about 7 other sites over 100 megawatts that could be used as well. You talk about Cipher being known in the industry for delivering quality data centers. The next one also falls into that category, IREN. Now, this is interesting. Our good friends at JP Morgan, to put it politely, issued a downgrade on the equity. So they cut their target from neutral to underweight, meaning they should reduce their exposure to IREN while simultaneously increasing the price target to $24 from 16. This is substantially below fair market value or where IREN's trading now. And if we look at some of these other analyst price targets, you can see $55 at Macquarie, $50 at Compass Point. You were able to find a table here that kind of summarizes these price targets. 2 observations for me, a very wide range. And it seems the analysts that are putting out these price target are a couple months maybe behind the game here.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, the lowest priced target on there is the JP Morgan from Reggie Smith, who's their technology analyst there. And, that $24, I mean, look at the price today. It's, $45, $46 today. So there's nowhere near that price target. And we expect the increase there. But actually, if you look at the number of targets, probably half are lower than the current price and half are higher than the current price. So it's a really mixed bag out there. The highest, obviously, was one that came out later last week, which was the Roth Capital. Darren Aftahi, I've had the pleasure of flying to Sweden with Darren. We went to see the Hive facilities over there. He's given it a price target of $82, which at the moment is an upside of about 81%. So, and Darren, I spent time with Darren on that flight there discussing how we look at miners from a potential of multiples in terms of the Bitcoin mining and multiples in terms of the high performance compute. And it was very educational for me. That was one of the first times I realized, there was a significantly lower multiple Bitcoin mining out there because of the unpredictability of the business versus the real predictability of high performance compute in terms of a contract that determines the revenues. There's an understanding of the power. There's therefore an understanding of the costs associated. You can't say that with Bitcoin mining because you can't control any of that going forward. So Darren was really clear to educate me that day. And so I've got a much more better understanding. So he's come out at 82 there. Aritz there at $78 and Bernstein at $75, along with Mizuho Securities at $75 too. So some really big targets, but also a few smaller targets from companies that we've actually just recently been part of. So H.C. Wainwright, Mike Colonnese, $36 his target there. You have to drop, nearly 30% to get down to that figure. Cantor Fitzgerald have got a more modest $41, and B. Riley Securities, Lucas Pipes, who we've met at the Denton facility last year for the big Core Scientific announcement. He gives IREN a target of 29, which I suggest along with JP Morgan's target, probably too much on the low side there.
I definitely agree there. Now, this analyst report received a lot of criticism on X. We know the IREN community, potentially among any X community for the Bitcoin miners, is one of the strongest. Franz Baker had some real criticism of Reggie's report, specifically around the capex required to upgrade the BC component of this company's story. So we've reported they have about 50 megawatts of capacity in British Columbia. The plan is to go from the current 23,000 GPUs up to approximately 60,000 of the next generation GPUs. Now, in addition to a number of other questionable, I guess, data points in the report. Franz really talked about the fact that JP Morgan, Reggie, estimated around $8 million per megawatt in terms of upgrade or conversion fees for these data centers, or around $400 million worth of capex for the entire 50 megs in BC. Now, we've got a video out from IREN. They were working on this in tandem. It sounds like they did release it a little bit early on the back of this downgrade from JP Morgan. But if you watch this video, you can see the upgrade progress in Prince George. This is not a complete retrofit overhaul. Nothing like Denton, where they had to break down the data center facility. This is essentially swapping out the racks for ASICs, putting in the new cases for GPU, and updating a little bit of the wiring above. You can see, aside from the case themselves, virtually no impact or change to the data center. So we'll play this video for you, then we can talk about our reaction. So fairly clear to see in that one, Anthony. This data center, as we've heard a number of times in the industry, is already up to standard for a lot of this HPC AI requirement. You've been to many of these data centers where they're actually running GPUs alongside ASICs, but nowhere close to an $8 million per megawatt upgrade, at least in BC here.
No, and to suggest that every miner is going to spend 8 million would be a suggestion too far. Even Core Scientific aren't spending anywhere near 8 million per megawatt. Now, we do know that the likes of TeraWulf and Cipher Mining are spending that amount of money. So the deals there with FluidStack and Google, I think for Cipher around about the 8 million per megawatt, and for TeraWulf about the 9 million per megawatt there. IREN have managed to do this from a sort of like a hybrid perspective. They build really good external infrastructure there, and they realize that they can utilize that great infrastructure to house GPUs for probably using a certain type of compute power required there. And I've been to facilities where they've had GPUs down one side of the corridor and S21 miners on the other side of the corridor, literally 3 feet away from each other. And so that really opened my eyes because I was led to believe, when we were at Denton last year, I asked the specific question to Core Scientific: can you co-locate mining machines and GPUs in the same building? And was told no. There's a lot of issues regarding power and things like that. So that put my perspective. But having been to sites, I can now confirm that there are other sites that are using this sort of hybrid facility to deliver HPC and at the same time deliver some mining as well.
Most definitely. Now, there were also some concerns about the forward-looking revenue projection, some of the other numbers in the report, outstanding shares. So by no means was this the only point of objection, but this was interesting because Reggie actually came out and amended or corrected this CapEx error. So that really shows you the power of retail compared to maybe Wall Street. And the relationship between these two investor groups. The other thing Franz is doing that's really cool, he's opened up subscriptions on his X page. All of the money goes towards these high definition pictures. So we've always wondered, where the heck are these guys getting these HD satellite images? I guess there's a company you can pay a few $100 per image. You can see the resolution now. I was on the spaces. I guess they're a TIFF file. Franz had to learn how to open these larger storage files, but you can see now detail down to the number of cars in the parking lot. This is going to give these guys a lot more ammunition to track the build out here of Childress and some of these other IREN locations. So really a thank you to the community, and again, an example of how retail can get involved to help tell the story here at IREN. The final piece of the pie we wanted to touch on, just a few hours left in Miner Madness 4.0, Anthony. It's been an exciting competition. You and I didn't necessarily rank very well, but we're up nearly 100% in terms of returns.
Yeah, I'll take the 100. I'll take the nearly 100%. And I think 96% up in 3 months. Bear in mind, my portfolio's probably done better than 96% in the last 3 months there. But I'll take that any day of the week over a short period. Greg is still on top there. He's just over $35 ahead of the next person who actually is one of the analysts. So Kama Sutra in second place on the main table, leading the analyst leaderboard there, an impressive 162%. So just over 13% lower than Greg. I think with the share prices there at the moment now. We've probably seen our winner, but we'll wait till the end of the day, maybe make the announcement tomorrow. But it's looking live there. It's been a great competition. We'll put some more information out next week on whether we do a fifth Miner Madness competition if we get the demand from people who want to enter the competition. Of course, we'll run another competition and get your views on it. We'll put something out next week to give you a chance to comment and determine whether you want to see that happen.
There you go. IREN, Cipher, Bit Digital, and Soluna. Guys, let us know your thoughts on these recent developments in the comment section below. We've got an interview with the CEO of Luxor Technology tomorrow, Nick Hansen. I'll probably be doing a double header, so stay tuned for that. We appreciate the support. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.